Next, we're going to be looking at some liquidity analysis. We're going to evaluate the liquidity of our company, Otis Inc., from our textbook problems on page 618 and 619. We're going to look at problem SE11 on the bottom of page 619. And we're going to use the information from Otis Inc., the problems SE6 and SE7, as well as partially SE9, to compute the cash flow yield, cash flow to sales, we're going to finish up with these, the cash flow from operating activities and free cash flow. So let's start out with our net, our cash flow yield, which starts out with our net cash flow from operations. And that's going to be divided by our net income. And from our problem itself, it gives us the net cash flows from operating activities and the net capital expenditures and the dividends for each of these problems. If you were to be looking at the actual financial statements of a corporation, you would be looking at their statement of cash flows to find out most of this information, as well as their income statement. So we're going to take the numerator, it's going to be the net cash from operations, and then that is going to be over the net income. And we're going to have our numerator is going to be 32,000, because that's what the problem said for today. And 28,000 is our net income. And what do we say? That's 1.1 times our net cash from operations covers our our net income by 1.1 times. It's basically a measure of how able our company is to generate cash from operations relative to its net income. Okay, next let's look. Oh, we got to do the other year. 42,000 is the number for the next year or the previous year, over 28,000, and that yields 1.5 times. So it got a little bit weaker from year to year. Now let's look at net cash from sales to net cash from operations to sales, net sales. And this one basically refers to the ability of our sales to generate or turn around and become cash. So we have 32,000 over 360,000. It gives us 8.9%. And then we have our 42,000 over 290,000. And again, all of the numbers I'm getting from the problem in the textbook. 14.5%. So again, we see a slight weakening in their cash flow generation ability for this particular company. And then lastly, our net cash, our cash flow to assets, and this is calculated by taking the net cash from operations and dividing it by the average total assets. And in this case, we have, again, our numerator is going to be that 32,000. And our denominator is going to be an average, so we're going to take the beginning and ending and divide by 2. divided by 2. And this is 42,000. And then it's divided by 240 plus 200. Okay, let's finish this up here. We've got 32,000 over average total assets of 274,000. Gives us a cash flow to assets of 11.7% versus 42,000 over 220,000, which gives us 19.1%. Okay. So lastly, we have the free cash flow. And again, if we were looking at a real business, you'd be looking at the company's annual report and going to their cash flow statement, getting their net cash from ops. From that, you're going to subtract any dividends and any net capital expenditure. Net capital expenditures. Again, both dividends and net capital expenditures can be found on the cash flow statement, lower than where the cash from operations is reported. They're reported in the financing and the investing activities. Additionally, your dividends you can also find on your statement of changes in stockholders' equity. Okay, so our numerator again is our 32,000. Well, I'm sorry, not numerator. Our first number up here is our 32,000. And then we're going to subtract 12,000 for the dividends that they had mentioned in the problem were paid, and then another 80,000 in capital expenditures. For a net cash, a negative free cash of $60,000. So basically, they used excessive cash above and beyond what they had from operations to support their dividend and capital expenditures. Let's see how that compared to the previous year. 42,000, 12,000, and 60,000. And again, this is going to give you a negative cash flow from investing activities of negative 30,000. What we can see generally here is that Otis's cash flow adequacy has gone down, and the cash flow yield declined from 1.5 times up here to 1.1 times. And then we had, in both of these years, we had negative numbers, but in 2012, it got even worse. The negative free cash flow explains, in part, the increases in liability shown in the analysis in a previous problem. Okay, so that's it for our cash flow analysis. So we'll move on to another problem. Thank you.